Well, now on for Uncertain Truth, and in the last programme of the series, Sir Karl Popper and Lord Anthony Quinton discuss knowledge.
Our situation, if we don't know and want to obtain knowledge, can be compared with that of a black man in a dark room who looks for a black hat which may not be there. What can he do? He can only feel with his hands, perhaps with his feet. He operates by trial and error. I think that is the fundamental situation of any organism trying to get knowledge.
Well, Sir Karl, you've covered a great range of subjects in your writings over the years, but I think you'd probably agree that the basis of everything you've had to say in the wide array of philosophical topics you've treated is your views about knowledge. And these are of an original and radical character. And perhaps the best way of bringing out what's special about them is to contrast them with the conventional, more or less traditional view of knowledge. People think usually that we acquire knowledge by opening our eyes and our ears, and let the sensations stream into us. And they believe then that we record this like a camera. In my opinion, if we wish to get knowledge, we have to have a problem. It has to be knowledge of something. We have to find out something. We don't have to wait for information to stream into us, but we have to be inquisitive if we want to get knowledge. If we were passive, we would gain a confused mass of sensations or something like that, which we would hardly be able to understand and to convert into what one may call knowledge. Quite apart from that, perception is not really, in my opinion, the main source of our knowledge. The role of perception is to inform us about a momentary situation in our environment. But we couldn't really interpret our perceptions without knowing much more about our environment. Namely, we know whether we are in a house or whether we are in a glacier. So we have two kinds of knowledge: this wider knowledge of a frame in which we orientate ourselves, and the momentary perception which gives us information about the situation at that particular moment. And it is only this situation in which we can use our perception. So we have theoretical knowledge and, if you like, the momentary
practical challenge to our theoretical knowledge, and here comes perception in.
I suspect that some defenders of the traditional conception would say, well, we admit that there's activity, in that we admit that people have to attend, that one can easily fail to register masses of things that are in principle perceivable because of failure of attention. They would admit that in seeking knowledge of the world round us, we engage in more or less exploratory activity or manipulate things. And I think in particular, they'd say, wherever we look around in the world, we're always ready to draw inferences of a certain kind from what we see, using our background knowledge. And so they would argue, perhaps, that they don't see that you're really correcting them by saying that the mind is active in the pursuit of knowledge.
You mentioned that traditionally it is said that the activity comes in because we draw inferences from our perceptions, let us say. But it is also at once said, yes, but with that there is the danger of error. So if you admit activity, you do admit our human erroneous moves. You admit human fallibility to come in. It was for this reason, I think, that the traditional theory stressed the passivity, that is to say, the datum. It spoke about sense data. Data means given. So we are given certain things, and that is not active, but there we are passive. We are given certain things, and as this given knowledge, this is to be taken as really certain, rock bottom. On this we can build. If we replace the given by our active intervention from the very beginning, our trying to solve problems from the very beginning, not passively waiting for what we are given, then the uncertainty comes in, even according to the traditional view of knowledge.
The interesting question that seems to me to arise here is, why has it been thought that we can attain certainty, and in some sense should, that we aren't doing our bit, intellectually speaking, unless we've acquired it? And I think one reason is perhaps emotional. I don't know if you'd agree with this, that people find doubt an uncomfortable state of mind. It's like sitting on a twisted cushion that you need to straighten out to be comfortable, or like passing your desk and seeing an unanswered letter or an unpaid bill. A belief that's to some extent been rendered acceptable by your investigations but has not been rendered certain is a piece of uncompleted business, in that it's susceptible of further improvement.
In my logic of scientific discovery, I suggested that instead of building on rock bottom an edifice of knowledge, which then will be absolutely certain, what we have to do is to drive piles in a swamp sufficiently deep to carry the building, at least for some time, the building which we erect. This kind of metaphor also indicates that we drive down from above. That is to say, we have our theoretical knowledge. This theoretical knowledge has to have a certain priority. we come from up down. The black man who looks for a black hat in a dark room, and the black hat may not be there, he at least knows something, at least knows his problem of finding the black hat. That is the minimum he has to know, and this is theoretical knowledge which is prior to the empirical knowledge, the feeling of the hat for which he is seeking. The main instigation for the search of truth is really that we see new problems. The discovery of new problems can be more important than the solution of the problem. I think this is perhaps the most important thing in science, and is the result of an attitude which does not go for certainty, but goes for where we fail, for the uncertainty. There are the problems where we do not find satisfaction, certainty. There we should go on digging.
All right, so you abandon certainty as an object because, in effect, it's a block. It's the idea that you can achieve certainty obstructs what the mind ought to be doing, pursuing ever deeper into the knowabilities of the world, but without any assumption that it'll ever finally conclude its search. Fine. But it's all very well to say the alternative is the search for truth, but to know that we're doing this more or less right, that we're pushing in the right direction in this search, don't we have to have some alternative to certainty, something in the nature of truth-likeness, probability, confirmation, support, justification, all ideas about which you've been very critical? Don't we need something like that to show us that we're pointed in the right direction?
We have to replace it by the search for truth in the form of criticism. We have constantly to criticize our own theories, our own interpretations. And criticism of this kind, which I have in mind, could be called rational criticism, because it is criticism of our own theories in the interest of truth. It must be unpersonal, completely impersonal criticism. It is criticism which asks itself, have we not made a mistake? Have we not overlooked something? Can we not find fault in what we have thought, interpreted, constructed, or whatever? It is criticism, as it were, from inside, in the sense that it is a criticism directed to improving our knowledge. The knowledge which we have may be faulty and therefore should be improved through criticism. One can compare this to the following. The search for certainty is like erecting a wall round your castle and build the wall higher and higher and higher. It will never be quite high enough to establish certainty. So we have to buy a watchdog. Then we don't need such a high wall, and the watchdog looks from inside. That is this internal criticism which I have in mind.